Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes. No signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. No more. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Guten Tag, that's German. Yeah, I'm bilateral. Your cousin from Boston. Sam Adams Oktoberfest is back for a limited time. It's hearty with a roasty sweetness. Hey, I can swear in German too. Watch this. Das. The Boston Beer Company, Boston, Mass. Enjoy responsibly.
Why go to a burger joint to buy chicken sandwiches when you can have one by the chicken experts at KFC with a crispy chicken filet, pickles, and mayo on a brioche bun? What are you waiting for? Order the KFC sandwich on the KFC app today for just $3.99. Prices and participation may vary, tax extra.
All right, guys.
Can't seem.
Thank you guys for coming by. Once again, we're here for the North American Spawn, and we actually have kind of a surprise and special guest for you here tonight. Zim's running a little late, but he'll be here, and I didn't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. I know it's already been 15 minutes, which is longer than I told you. But we have MyDarling from the Oceanic region. You said you're from Australia, correct? Australia, New Zealand?
Yep. I'm from Australia. Yep.
So he's fortunately had a bit of time where he's been able to see some of the North American scene. He'd mentioned to me that you've mostly kept up on the North American Masters, Champs, Stage 3 information, right?
Yes, I think I'm pretty updated on the whole gist of what's going on with the NA region, the top teams, and keeping some tabs on some players and the overall meta. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely got a handful of really, really solid teams in North America. And, we were kind of talking a little bit before we went live here. Your big ones that you're looking out for are going to be your NYSL, Mayhem, obviously Tribe, who won Masters, Explicit, who has merged with Arsenal, and they're looking absolutely fantastic. They actually, I believe, had a Mobile Mayhem first, where they went up against Shreddit tonight, and they won the hardpoint 150-0, and then followed it up with a clean sweep 6-0 in the Search and Destroy as well. And then ARP, as well as Truly. We don't see Truly in Mobile Mayhem, but they are another really, really strong team for the North American side of things when you start looking towards Stage 4, which is actually coming up in a couple weeks. So that should be exciting.
For sure. I think a lot of the teams are looking really, really solid right now. I mean, I do really have my eyes on, especially Tribe and NYSLM. But I think the competition-wise in NA is looking really, really solid, and I'm really enjoying the competition there right now.
Yeah, the top of NA looks solid. I don't know if you've caught any EU, but EU is a crazy region right now. They have so many good teams. And it's kind of heartbreaking because uh-oh, my stream dropped. I wonder why. Anyway, we'll keep going. It should be live again here in a second. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of EU as well. I've casted actually some EU, and I'm glad that they expanded North America and EU to actually having 3 teams that go to Worlds. I'm unsure if LATAM as well is getting an extra region. That is something I need to look more into, but EU has so many teams that are deserving of a world spot, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see that, some of those teams may not make it. And, kind of speaking of that, that brings us to a really good point on what's going on in OCE, where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are the top-ranked team for that region, and it sounds like you guys don't really have any sort of promise of even having a chance at a world spot. So obviously you're going to know more about that side of things than I do. So why don't you go ahead and give us in NA here a little bit of a catch-up on what's going on over there?
Yeah, well, so unfortunately, this year we won't be getting a world slot. I'm not sure the gist of how that was selected, but I do know that, as you mentioned before, Latin America did actually get 3 slots for their regional playoffs. Unfortunately, I think maybe it's just because our region is a little bit more underdeveloped. We have, I'd say, less teams. Competitive wise, I think we're pretty much on par with every other region. However, I think our community is a lot smaller, similar to the Korean region last year. So I think that might be one of the contributing factors to why we didn't get a slot this year. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, with the EU region as well, they do really have a lot of solid teams, and their respawn game is looking really, really good. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that me and my other co-caster Verdict have compared quite a bit in the past is that, as well as actually some of the pros from EU, we had a chance to talk to them, and if you look at the North American region as a whole, a lot of the teams are like really, really heavily focused on their gun skill. And there are some teams, but there are very few that have just like a raw, really high level of teamwork. And that's one of the biggest things as you start going into a world setting where Tribe during Masters just looked like this untouchable team, or rather, the beginning of Masters looked like this untouchable team. Obviously, we've had quite a few upsets against them in the recent dates. Obviously, we had some really, really phenomenal matches in Masters with them and Truly, and them in NYSL. NYSL went on to beat them in Stage 3, knocked them down to the losers bracket. They were able to climb their way back up. But then, even just, I believe, last week on Tuesday, Arsenal, which is now basically explicit, those two rosters merged, and it is a majority of the Arsenal players. They were able to take down Tribe last week in a 2-0 victory as well. So I think that's a really good sign for North America, in where there were a lot of players that, if you are just coming by and watching kind of those important games, right? You come by and you just watch the finals of Masters. You don't really get the whole picture that the rest of the region has really been able to put together. Where if you watch the intro of Masters and you watch the final of Masters, it just looks like Tribe's at the top. And Stage 3 wasn't really on stream anywhere. It wasn't anywhere that it was like largely accessible for your average viewer to keep up on the information that was happening there. We obviously have some additional mediums. I know Bobby runs the unofficial COD Mobile Esports channel on Twitter, and he was putting some updates out there for the things that were going on in Stage 3. But again, it made it really difficult to see how developed NA is. It was looking like you had one team at the top, and then you had maybe 2 or 3 teams fighting for that second, third place. But these past couple weeks have really shown that there's a lot more that NA brings to the table, but it still doesn't quite match the same raw numbers as, for example, Europe. So I don't know how much you've kept up with Europe, but Europe has a lot of really solid teams. Obviously, Nova won their Masters, but the likes of Anarchy, Stamina, Oxygen, Tragic, Cold, even Fusions on a good day are all really, really solid teams, and we don't have that level of diversity across the board from top to bottom in North America. And it sounds like it may be a little bit the same in OCE. From my obviously, when Zim had mentioned to me that he wanted to have you on, I had like briefly kind of had a chance to look in. Obviously, as I was mentioning to you before the stream, I had a migraine the past couple days. I really tried to stay away from the screens as much as possible. But it kind of looked like that's the same case over there. It looks like you have like a top 1 or 2, and then the rest of the region is a little bit weaker in comparison.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you on that. I'd say in our region we probably have the same sort of like competitive atmosphere as NA. However, what I'm seeing from NA compared to EU is that EU has a lot of SMG players. I'd say like the entire region almost is pretty much SMG focused, and even though a lot of the teams I'd say are on par with each other, and a lot of teams can pretty much take maps or even completely take games off of each other, I feel like in certain scenarios, like S&B, for example, I feel like play styles differ a lot when it comes region to region, and I wouldn't completely say that EU is ahead of NA right now. It's just I feel like it's just how the play styles differ that really offer some of these teams an opportunity to take maps from top teams compared to where NA. Whereas I'd see like a lot of like a mixture of play styles. You have anchors using Holders, you have like rushers, slayers using Fennecs and your typical Bisons or something like that. So right now, I think it's really hard to tell, to be honest. I don't think it's generally decided whether or not EU or NA has the better team. But for sure, on average, EU probably has the closest to what you'd say a more competitive region. But I wouldn't necessarily say, for example, Nova is for sure better than Tribe or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it does look like we have Zim joining us. So, Zim, thanks for being here. I know you were a little late, had some stuff with the team. Um, Obviously, this is your guest, and we did have to start a little bit early without you. So, welcome into the stream. And, if you were able to catch any of the beginning of it, I would love to have any of your points.
I joined when you were talking about I'm not gonna lie, I'm drawing a blank. He started talking about the competitive atmosphere when I joined. I mean, I invited MyDarling because perhaps not a lot of people actually pay attention to all the other regions. I definitely spend a lot of time watching, uh, obviously the major ones, North America, Europe. I watch a whole lot of the Asian stuff, Korea and just Greater China right now. Their league is insane, by the way. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can talk about there, but uh, one of the regions in general that's just genuinely underwatched. I wouldn't actually say region. I don't know if it is a region. APAC? We call it APAC on console. What's it called in COD Mobile? Just
Yeah, so
Australia.
it's actually OCE, I believe.
It's an
One of our
oceanic region.
social, yeah. So one of the, I think the social media guys, it's looking for APAC just because the console one is APAC, but we
Call it
call it
APAC.
OCE. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's just OCE, Oceania region. Yeah.
Yeah, we call it APAC, but I watch quite a bit. I've watched every community challenge. I've watched all of the major stuff that they've broadcasted out of Australia. And Mindfreak has,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. It just looks like Australia sucks. Like, you guys seem to be the only team there that is, quite honestly, competitive. We keep it a whole band. It looks
I'm
like
gonna
everyone
be
is
yeah.
really bad.
I'm gonna be honest. I'd say on a world level, I'd say only our team Mindfreak and IFM really have a chance of really doing anything. Just because I'd say the resources for the competitive scene is just not there yet. We have a really small
What do
player
you mean
base.
what do you mean by resources?
What I mean by that is our number one, like our player base is entirely, it's really small. We have really little players, but we have a lot of talent in the region. However, there's not a lot of motivation for players to grind just because
Uh,
number one, there aren't really any tourneys, and
yeah, you guys are paying like $3,000. Like, that's not a lot.
yeah, well, for the first season of the community challenge, it was not under 18, so like anyone could participate.
Right.
However, I think from the second season on, like they had the 18 plus rule, and then like a lot of we barely had like enough teams to sign up for the entire region. Like we only had like 8 teams sign up for the second one and 8 teams for the third one. But before that, we
Yeah.
had like 30 teams, and I felt like it was a lot more competitive in the first season compared to the second and third one. But I do still feel like, for example, Mindfreak and IFM would be able to compete on a world's level just because we, before all this regional stuff, we still competed with the likes of Team IND, Vitality, and all the top Indian teams on their ping for a long time. And last year in April we were actually undefeated in Asia on their ping as well. Under the name of CDK Asia. I don't know
Yeah,
probably
yeah, I
didn't know
recall.
us back
We
then. But
had talked a little bit. We were gonna
oh
try for
yeah,
last
for
time. We
sure.
had,
I think I asked you for a scrim for a little bit, but
yeah,
yeah, So before that, we, I'd say we were a lot less organized last year, but at the start of the community challenge, we actually put in a lot of effort for going through stuff like VOD reviews and anything from analyzing spots, strats, and yeah, just anything to kind of maximize our competitive advantage.
yeah. I mean, and you never really know
Yeah,
when you guys are gonna be offered a spot to compete in a tournament where otherwise you didn't have any information on. Generally, in COD history, uh, APAC is APAC's definitely a region that represents, and they often get teams invited to international stuff. You see them a lot at the CWL events for the when it was the CWL. You saw it a lot before the CWL when we had open bracket stuff in different cities around the world. Uh, and those teams tend to be like really they fly under the radar because not a lot of people are watching that region, quite honestly, and they play well. Um, I don't know
yeah,
why in COD Mobile they kind of disenfranchise and just knock the APAC region off to the side. They don't recognize you guys as a region. It kind of feels like you guys are like Mexico right now, where you just get lumped
yeah,
in with the others, and you end up having to play the ping difference and all that stuff, and
yeah,
it's really rough for you guys. Um, but no, like I said, I've been watching a whole bunch of the Australian stuff. I actually like to watch quite a bit of each region and just to see how the meta differentiates. Uh,
yeah,
it tends to kind of be within the ballpark of each other, but I really like I really like some of the things that I see from your team in particular. I think that you guys, as I said before, in my opinion, the only Australian team that I could see going to a world championship or going to anything international and actually playing well against some teams. I don't know how well you guys would play considering it's difficult to measure ping right now and stuff like that. But if you guys are in the Mexico type situation where you're going over there and you're playing in the Asian region on huge disadvantage, I would imagine, and beating those teams, probably you guys are probably doing something right. Um, but no, I definitely enjoy watching you guys. I have a question for you actually, because it was
yeah.
interesting to me. I've been following COD for a really long time, and I follow the amateur scene right now and on console.
Mm.
How did you guys end up with Mind Freak, and what was that like for you guys? Because Mind Freak is huge in Australia, aren't they?
Yeah, well, at first, I believe so. Our team originally was called Reaper Esports, and we were basically just like we've been basically dominating our scene for quite a while. However, last year IFM did kind of like take our spot for a couple months. They were the number one team, but then we managed to kind of like take that spot back. And when the first community challenge was announced, we basically, I mean, I emailed a few orgs to see if we can get like to get picked up, and we had a few orgs respond, and Mind Freak was definitely not one of the ones I expected to respond. They actually responded within the same day that I sent the email. So we just kind of like sat and had a chat with one of the managers, and he managed to. I mean, we talked about the logistics of things, and then we pretty much became Mind Freak on that same day. Yeah.
Cool. That's super dope. And do you guys actually have people from the organization that are actively with you guys all the time, or are you guys just kind of free balling it with the dudes you got?
So currently, when we first joined, the org was a bit under organized, I'd say. However, 2 months ago, um, we had a new guy literally jump in and buy the entire org, and he brought his own team with him and everything. And I felt like that was a huge improvement on the side of like the staffing, I think everything right now, like we've got a team manager, we've got a coach who's Elevate, you probably know who Elevate is, and our CEO also lives in Melbourne. So and most of our players live in Melbourne as well. So we can kind of like jump in the office whenever we like, and I think the resources we have are really good. Yeah, yeah.
So, so tell me right now, because I know you guys. There's some rumors I've heard that you guys are underage. I've heard that you guys are still on iPad. I've heard that you guys. Well, let's start there. So what's up with that? Are you guys actually fielding an 18 plus roster, where if you were by some miracle given a spot where you could actually compete, and would you even be ready to go to a tournament like that, device wise?
So we are actually all above 18. Our entire roster is above 18. And during the competition, tablets weren't banned, so we still used iPads. Um, However, I think most of our players have already had experience on phone. I believe there was a period of time where we didn't have any tourneys and we were really demotivated. So a lot of our players decided to move to phone to play, and I felt like even though it took a bit of time to get used to, I felt like on the competitive side of things, it wasn't that much of a huge difference in terms of kind of like getting used to the new devices. Um, I feel like a lot of our players are really good anyway, so it really translates. I think you know what I mean. Like when you have like a really good player on iPad, usually I'd say like the skills would translate. If you have like a decent player on iPad, maybe it won't translate. But I feel like what we had before the tourney was, um, I'd say pretty good for where we were until we switched back.
Yeah, well, looks like that situation's handling itself. I really hope that they consider you guys for one of the wild card invitation spots. I don't know if there is still a wild card invitation spot, because when they released well, they didn't release anything official, but they said that Masters, and remember only 2 regions had Masters, the winner of each of those regions would get a spot, and then totally separate from that, when they released the terms of service for the regional playoff and the accompanying regions that have a playoff, uh, they released how many teams they would take from that region playoff and send them to the World Championship. So there's a lot of speculation right now where regions like North America get 2 or whether they get 3. I'm of the understanding that it's 3, and that
Wait,
they just have poorly communicated the like the summarization of it. Masters was separate. That was a separate partner event. So how it reads in the terms of service right now is that Masters separate partner event. They get a spot. The winner of that team, or the winner of that event, which was Tribe, and then written into the terms of service says that the top 2 teams from the regional playoff will also go to the World Championship. It's totally
yeah,
separate. So the question
yeah.
becomes, well, what if Tribe wins? Well, second and third place would get the spot. That's how it would make sense to me. But
Yeah, that would
I don't
that's the only thing that I'd say makes sense. But I think all the slots are confirmed now, right? Like I believe you've got 2 regional winners from NAEU, and then you've got 3 from Latin America. Got 1 team from Garena, I believe, and then 2 teams from China, a team from Japan, 3 teams from South Asia and Middle East.
China gets 2 teams. Yeah. China gets
Is
the
it 2?
the top point scorer from their pro league, and the winner of their Masters. Which, by the way, their Masters event is like $480,000 or something like that. It's nuts. They're
Are we
averaging.
talking about China or?
Yeah, China. They're
Yeah,
averaging.
yeah.
absurd
Okay, you know
numbers.
what? I'm just gonna leave it out here. China's probably the best region right now. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah, China
it's
looks really
just
good.
I'd say, to be honest, look at the esports scene. Like, they've got every single team's literally sponsored. You've got proper resources. You've got people grinding bloody 20 hours a day, and you've got coaches. You've literally got everything. it's so competitive, and there's so much money on the line. People grind this like on their mom's life, literally. So like, you know, inherently, I'd say China is probably the best region right now. And from what I've seen so far, yeah, that pretty much confirms it. Just the way they play S&D, the coordination, even their respawns, even though they have different rule sets and they're playing like ranks right now, like ranks rules, I think. I still think they're probably, if they get 2 slots, it's their first and second team placing first and second in the world championships.
China?
China, yeah.
No, I'm telling you how it works. The winner of the Masters gets a spot,
Oh, okay.
and then the top team in their league by point standing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how that works. I don't know
Yeah.
if they're gonna. I mean, they would have to use the global rules. I would imagine their rule set
Yeah.
is not going
I
to
don't think it'll
be
be
the standard one. But they actually do some really cool stuff with their rules, like the 1v1 tournament. Like I like the idea of like taking a gladiator and like sending him into a circuit to go and do stuff.
No, it's really cool.
It's like select your champion, and it's like I send
Yeah.
fucking Little B or whoever, and like I'm playing Primal and they send Maralta or something. That's really cool to me and like fucking
Yeah.
hilarious. But
One
yeah,
thing
their rules are
though,
wonky.
like I heard that basically the 1v1s determine basically like whoever wins gets to pick the map and side of the
Yes.
first map, and I think that's actually a huge advantage, to be honest. I mean,
Well, that's kind of like the point of, I guess the whole thing is like select your champion. Go
yeah,
and
for
go
sure.
get it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that China is such a competitive region right now. I'd say it's probably like even more competitive than EU. I'd say way more competitive than EU, to be honest. It's just that you'd see like the top 9 teams, and every team would literally go toe to toe with each other. It's actually insane. Like I hope there's more coverage of that region, like for English watchers as well, because I have no idea what the fuck they're saying. Like, to be honest, like speaking Chinese, I don't understand.
Yeah, no, but they probably have like subtitles and stuff. But I mean,
Yeah.
you don't really. It's not like you need to listen to a
Yeah,
Chinese caster to watch the game and understand it if you have mini-map context and things like that. Assuming you
for
guys
sure.
are intelligent COD people who are following the games well, and not just cavemen who are looking at the map. He spawned here. That's a bad spawn. Like,
I was able to watch some of Bobby's watch party earlier of
oh yeah,
some of the games, and I gotta say, if you're a North American team, or if you're a European team, or if you're a Latin American team, you need to be watching those guys play Search and Destroy, because that was a whole different experience than I've casted teams from all of the regions, right? And just there is not a team in North America. There is not a team in Latin America. There is not a team in Europe uh, that comes anywhere close to that level of teamwork in Search and Destroy specifically. And I think you guys hit a good point earlier that it'll be interesting to see how the rule set mesh goes, because obviously,
yeah. That I was gonna bring that up.
yeah, I mean, we don't play best of 9 Search and Destroys as fun as it was to watch, right? Like, it was a good time, but
Yeah.
you have to imagine, for a Worlds event, you're going to be probably flexing to the global version rule set.
Yeah, of course.
Just because that's what 90% of the teams competing are going to be on. And it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to
Yeah,
pull favoritism towards the 10%.
I
I'm
think
gonna be.
it'd be a good idea for them to take some things from, because they have some things in their rule set that are just really cool and that I would like to see in the North American stuff. Like I said, the 1v1 tournament or the 1v1 aspect of it. I think that that's super dope. Um, and some of their scoring too. Like I would like to keep S&D at 6. I think S&D belongs at 6. But as well, like I wouldn't mind if it goes to 9 anyway, because it's not like currently S&D really is S&D. Like we still need to try to get COD Mobile to actually flip S&D, like alternate rounds.
Alternate rounds,
That
yeah, that's a big
yeah,
thing on console.
that's a huge. That's like that is S&D. Like right now we're just playing shortened CS:GO matches, and it's like it is S&D, but it's still not traditional. And I feel like that aspect of it too assuming the World Championship for COD Mobile is going to be a big thing, and you're going to get a lot of viewership from every region, you already know if Chinese teams are playing in it, you're going to get massive Chinese viewership. It might not be all on the same place as our platforms, but they'll definitely be watching. And since our World Championship will be happening on the console, or rather during the console off season, you would imagine you're going to have some like spillover from the console player base, the fan base over there, maybe some cross-platform coverage from the casters over there as well. I would like for the game not to look weird to them. I don't want them to come in and see 150 for hardpoint and then like CS:GO S&Ds and be like, this isn't really COD.
I think that's a
And
good
that's kind
point,
of what I fear.
especially because of. I wouldn't say it's easy to snowball and search and destroy, but let's say you're a really good offense search and destroy team on
Yeah, right.
standoff, and you start on a standoff and you are up 4-1. Like, you are at such a ginormous advantage to go into defense and only have to find 2 rounds on defense, versus if you're alternating back and forth, you have to keep up with the rotations that are shifting back and forth, who's going where this round. Um, as opposed to, again, if you go into the second half of search and destroy and you're up 4-1, like, there's just, you have to mega throw that game to lose, right? Like, there's a big mental aspect of the game, whether it's hardpoint, whether it's domination, whether it's just being able to bounce back from a hard loss, because sometimes that's just the
You
case.
don't get that, yeah. You don't get that in a shorter in
Right.
in the short matches.
Well, like
It's
hardpoint,
like
for
you get
example,
smacked in the face and
150.
then you're done.
Yeah, 150. Like today on we watched Explicit versus Shreddit. That was a
I saw it.
third
They got
hardpoint
150
win.
O'd.
Like
Yeah.
we didn't even see the fourth hardpoint. And I get there's gonna be one-sided matches like that, but at the same time,
Uh,
a match that's over by the third hardpoint did not give enough time to actually develop. How many times in seasons past, Sim, have we seen, for example, Zygnus make like just a crazy comeback, or Tribe make a comeback, or Nova? Nova was really a team that could go down early on in the hardpoint or early on
second
in the
half hardpoint
domination,
game,
and
yeah.
in the second half just absolutely blow out 120 points and come back for the win.
Yeah.
And 150 just doesn't allow that.
I agree with that as well. Just because right now, I'd say one thing I pay attention to as well is also like the management of operator skills as well. Because once you basically allow your team to snowball and you get into the correct spots and you're anchoring the correct positions. For example, with Annihilator, it's pretty much guaranteed. It's the nail in the coffin, and I feel like a lot of regions like EU, for example, I feel like it's a lot more running around. And when I pay attention to regions like, I'd say like more Asian regions or Japan or India, I feel like they have really good management and safekeeping of their operator skills. I think it plays a big part in kind of like guaranteeing your team the win as well, because it's only up to 150 once you get a few kills.
Respect to Japan, but I think I think Japan is awful. Like, I did not spend a lot of time at all watching the the stage tournaments last year at all.
Oh
Like,
well,
it was so, I don't know. That was
what
just one
I
region that
thought was
bored me.
basically last year, in stage 4 last year, the only professional team that made it out was RC. Every other team
Yeah, and they were T1 later, I think,
were
right?
pretty much just randoms. No, none of the teams were T1, like except for
No,
RC in
T1,
stage 4.
T1, like the org T1.
Oh, T1. T1's Korea, not
Oh
Japan.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, RC. I
No,
don't
I
know.
mean,
RC was playing against a bunch of randoms,
yes, that is
and
true.
and
That's
they
true.
looked random too at times. So it was,
I'm going to
it
point
was
something
quite
out, by the
interesting.
way, Zim.
Yeah.
You did talk about earlier how in China they have a different rule set and how they would feel really sort of like confused when they watch the World Cup. Be like, oh, like what the hell is this? Like 150? Like what was this? S&D to
Pace.
6? That's the
It's
same
the
thing with
pace.
Japan right now,
Yeah.
because Japan has their own rule set, which is fairly similar on the S&D side, which is basically no trophies. no dead silence in S&D as well. I feel like with their rule set, they are a lot more competitive within their own region, and people don't view the World Championship as anything serious. So a lot of tier one teams in Japan don't even bother participating in the World Championship just because they think it's like a shit show, which is obviously not true. But
You've got
if
you've got the whole situation where like aside from the two major North American and EA, it's just sounding to me a lot like last year's Garena, where everybody was doing one thing and Garena was just rogue. Like they ran their own circuit, they had their own like set of tournaments, whole bunch of stuff, their own rules, all of that good stuff. They were 100% rogue. Didn't give a shit about anybody saying
yeah,
anything about their rules. Ran their whole thing, and the players. I mean, the players ultimately have no say. It's whoever the tournament organizers are over there in
that's
Garena, and
that's pretty much Japan.
yeah,
I'd say like they think the rest of the world is a shit show, and I mean everyone's on iPad, but like I'd say with their rule set, if you actually pay attention, RC haven't actually won a major title in Japan in a long time, just because of the way the rules are played there. RC does really well against international teams, but not in their own region, just because there are other teams that perform way better than they do on their rule set. So that's
yeah,
one interesting thing I wanted to point out as well. With China, the fact that they don't have trophies in S&D, I think it's going to really change the dynamic of things, and I feel like it would give other teams a huge opportunity to take them down as well, just because
yeah.
it is a really big change of
There's a
pace.
lot of
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's different in the Chinese version of the game, because I'm pretty sure it's balanced differently as well. I think. Is it not balanced differently? I know the
balanced.
Chinese
What
version
do
is
you mean
totally
balanced?
different. Some of the stats on some of the weapons. Is it not a
Uh,
totally different game?
no, if I'm not wrong, it's the same. Like they have the same patches and everything. Like I'm not completely
Gotcha.
sure, but I would
Yeah, I
assume
don't know
they
where I
would have
heard,
the same
but
patches.
yeah, I don't know where I heard, but I heard that there were some differences between the global version and the Chinese version. I could be
Uh,
wrong.
I think
Uh,
that would be ridiculous since like that would just kind of
I
like
mean, would it though? Would it though? I mean,
I mean I think it
I
would
actually don't. I
just
actually
because
don't think it. I don't think that you could rule that out as a possibility. We've seen that before
well
with
right
different games.
now like based on like what I've seen like the meta there you've got Fenix, AS Vals and Holger. That's like the pretty much the three guns that they use. You know, apart from your typical sniper in S&D. I mean, they had Arctics in S&Ds as well. I don't think that's like a big deal at all. Arctic's still viable for sure, but their meta seems exactly the same as anything we've seen in global, anyways. So I don't think there's a difference in terms of gun balancing and everything, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I definitely respect China. I think that like it's I don't like to crown regions because you just don't know until they they play internationally. Because for the
Fair enough.
longest time, when we in Vainglory, people used to watch
Uh-huh.
NA, and NA was really good. You'd watch, and there were distinctions in Vainglory between the regions. You knew you're like NA's very whatever they were, and then EU's very patient, and then everybody would like watch Korea, and you'd be like, oh my god, the Koreans, holy shit, like, and then we'd get to the World Championship, and North America would just wipe the table with everybody. Like you just don't ever know until there is international competition, uh, and you just have to kind of find out. I do think though
Mm,
that the global rule set, it's going to be tough for them to
adapt.
depending on how much time they have in between when they qualify and when they start scrimming on the new. First of all, the version, the maps are different, the rule set and all of that, and then you add some of these aspects. Like if you haven't been playing with trophy systems already, that's gonna be like giving cavemen like fire. It's different, and
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I don't think it's gonna take long for them at all to figure out how to use it. They'll probably figure out way more efficient ways to use it than we have. But with how fast the game is played in North America and Europe, and you watch these Chinese matches, extreme amounts of patience, lots of calculated stuff, like lining up shit and just throwing it. Like that's just stuff I feel like they're not gonna have the time to do that playing against a North American or European team ramming it down their throat. Uh, so we'll see, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited. What's that saying, Day? About the Asian people? They say it doesn't matter what you do on what it is that you think you're good at. Somebody somewhere. There's an Asian that's better than you at it.
Oh yeah. So you see that all
So
over the
like
betting
I
internet.
am 100% like confident that China's gonna be really 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 good, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I actually I'm
Yeah.
gonna turn my camera off and take my headset off for a second. My migraine's kicking in a little bit, and my head feels like it's gonna explode. So I'll be back in 5.
That's right. Yeah,
Hold
take your
up.
time, man. So I was gonna, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna mention like you talked about Asia being sort of like um I mean they could bring surprises. I feel like there is a huge distinction between the Asian regions as well, because you've got number one, you've got Garena, you've got South Asia and Middle East, and you've got Japan being their own region, and you've got China. And I feel like all four of those regions are actually really different inherently to how they play. Because number one, for example, you've got South Asia and Middle East. They play a similar game to what you'd see in, let's say, NA and EU. However, I could say that um, their S&D game, especially Team IND, I feel like their S&D game is really really solid. Um, However, uh, particularly I'd say respawns, they're probably not as good. Um, but you see like other regions like say Garena, where last year we did get a surprise because during the regional finals they had Daivo who was dominating Daivo from Thailand, and then they actually ended up getting defeated by NRX in the finals. And I feel like Garena is quite a competitive region as well, with like their huge audience and their prize pool as well. I feel like any region with um the more resources you pump into a region, I feel like that region's inherently going to improve a lot. um right now what I'm seeing is that I'd say like the majority of top teams in the world right now are probably really really close to each other. And I agree with what you said earlier, to not like, I'd say like crown certain regions, because I mean regions on average, some regions can probably be better than other regions on average, but their top teams can probably bring a different thing to the table. They can probably prove their region uh like they can probably prove that their region is probably better than what they are on average. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of examples in different games where resources to a space or region, a scene, doesn't necessarily translate to more talent, doesn't necessarily translate to better skill, better progression. Like my best example of that is the North American LCS in League of Legends.
Mm.
They
Yeah,
pay absurd amounts of money, probably the most money any region spends on its players, and year after year after year after year after year, North America just sucks. And that's a
that's actually
North
true.
and that's a
I
North
did watch
America thing.
the Yeah,
Yeah,
I was quite a
a League of
stan on
Legends.
League
Yeah,
esports as well.
yeah. I watched
And
lots and lots and lots of League, but like
but
you
you could
see
also
that.
argue that the LPL does pump a lot of resources into players as well, just because of
Sure.
how big gaming is in general in China. It's
Right,
just
but
huge.
culture differences, right, where it's taken seriously in an
Yeah,
area like
yeah,
that because that's just what the culture is over there. Um,
yeah.
somewhere over here where it's still very new for esports to be a career path, or for esports to be a hobby that isn't scoffed at. Oh, just in general, esports is much more negatively, I think, received here,
Mm,
trending towards more neutral than I would say positive. Uh, resources invested here aren't always going to lead to result. Uh, you were talking earlier about your region having uh, a compromised player base, and that sounds a lot like North America, where it's not that North America doesn't have the talent. I think talent-wise, North America may very well be one of, if not the top regions on planet Earth. Uh, but so many of our players are in that 15 to 17-year-old range that it's quite honestly very embarrassing. If you looked at Mobile Mayhem, just the tournament series, the league that we run in the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 seasons, and you go back then, watch some of those. Look, every single team could be one another at any given point in time. You had plenty of teams, and we were always cycling through. You had a lot of really great underage players playing. There was always a rookie class to show for it, and then the 18 plus rule hit. Look at Mobile Mayhem North America now. We cannot successfully field 8 teams. 2 of them dropped out. The other bottom 4 get 150 owed by, you know, the
Yeah,
top end teams. It's like huge, massive, ridiculous divides between the top team, the top 2 teams, the top 3 teams, and everybody else. It falls off a cliff. And I think
yeah,
when people
mm,
when the age restriction initially happened, a lot of people said, "Oh, this is going to kill the game." And I disagree because at the end of the day, the game and the prize pools they're going to stay the same. The game tournament organizers they're going to put the cash up regardless year after year. So whether or not 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds now, the players that are really good now are eligible to play for it, uh, it doesn't matter. Quite honestly, they don't care about them. They care about the game and its viewership at the current moment. But I thought the aspect of it that everybody was missing was that, yeah, you might not be able to play this year, but every single year, what's going to make COD Mobile refreshing when the off season comes and new teams are formed is that you're going to see a healthy fluctuation of a rookie class, a rookie class, a rookie class every single year. It's going to build, and you're going to get a lot of talent sizzling in. There's going to be a lot of lean into it. New teams are going to form. They're going to feel fresh when you see new faces even though you've been seeing these people compete the entire time, and it'll develop itself naturally the way that a sports league should. Uh,
yeah. I
Plus,
mean,
what we're going through right now is not something that it's not something that uh, other franchise leagues or franchise games or very successful games haven't already gone through as well. Like League went through the age hell too when it was very young. COD went through the age hell. You had a lot of players who can temp and a lot of people who for the longest time they went to Halo. They couldn't even compete in COD. Uh, so it's natural.
yeah,
It happens, and we just kind of have to wait it through.
yeah. I think I have to agree with what you said. However, I think a lot of people draw parallel to the PUBG mobile esports scene as well, just because there you've got if you pay attention at all, I think believe last year or 2 years ago, grand champions were a team from Indonesia, Bigatron Esports, and 2 of their players were 16-year-old twins, and I felt like a lot of the teams had underage talent and they were able to participate, so people were just kind of like, oh, like why can PUBG have this but not us? You know what I mean? I agree with your statement about how you know you get new faces every season, every year, but at the same time, you know, I feel like COD Mobile Esports is pretty late to the scene as well, and I feel like it's probably not handled as well as PUBG Esports, judging by the kind of like viewership we're getting, I'd say, and then the sort of attention they're pumping to like the average audience. I feel like not really like your casual your casual player wouldn't really know about the esports scene compared to like how they're handling in China. They're doing pop-ups in game. They're, you know, every team is pretty much sponsored, and their esports scene is hyped up to the point where, you know, people are actually like supporting them like traditional sports teams. I feel like it's just going a bit slower than your average PUBG mobile esports scene.
Yeah, there's lots of ways that I think COD Mobile can advertise their their tournaments and stuff and boost their players. the brands of their players and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not they do it already in China. So
Yeah.
there's definitely room to, you know, work that way. Um, but I guess we'll just see. But I don't have anything else that's on my mind. I definitely enjoyed talking to you. Uh,
Mm.
I think Mind Freak's a beast of a team. I fucking sucks that you guys won't be able to play in the World Championship. Hopefully, we can all try to ride and see if we can get COD Mobile to give you guys a wild card spot. Maybe somebody pulls out, which was funny because it happened last year that one of the teams didn't fill out paperwork in time and they lost their spot. So when they gave the prize pool to everybody, that one team that didn't fill out the paperwork in time, they forfeited all their prize pool and it went to everybody else. So
Oh.
sometimes shit like that happens, and maybe
Was
you
that the
guys,
Vietnamese team or?
yeah, Oxygen.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was Oxygen last year.
Oh, okay. So we didn't get like the full disclosure to how that happened, but now I do
So
know.
so the guy Suraj or whatever his name was, right? That's his name, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that guy, they sent us they sent all the teams paperwork for the prize distribution that you
yeah.
had to sign and fill. You had to fill it in and send it in within, the time limit. And the guy didn't do that, and they lost the
That
money.
sucks because like I was actually quite close to that team, like that Vietnamese team, because I am Vietnamese myself and I did play on their region, and they were pretty pissed, to say the least. They were pretty pissed. Yeah,
It sucks. I would
but
hate that guy. That was not a small amount of money at all. It was like what,
that's a
170 grand?
107. I think it was
Yeah,
107 grand. Yeah,
it was over 100 grand that each team got. And
yeah,
and if you were an individual team where you didn't have to give 20% to your org, you got to take all that cash home.
yeah.
Uh, so
That's
for
fucking
them,
nuts.
that
That's,
just fucking sucks.
yeah, it's crazy.
I gotta say, Zim,
So
you're a really solid asset to have here on the spawn, and I feel like you specifically, and I really appreciate you having MyDarling on here, right? Because this has been actually a really insightful episode of the spawn, and we actually do have a couple people in chat wondering if perhaps you'd be interested in reaching out to maybe some Garena teams as well. Um, so I don't know if you or Darling maybe could try to set that up for the future. Either any of the Indian players or Garena players. So.
Oh yeah, I would love to have more people on the spot. I know some people were talking to me, and when I mentioned I'd have my darling as a guest, they're like, "But it's North America." I'm like, I don't give a damn. We
But
can have
North
whoever the
America
fuck
has
we
been
want.
so shitty lately that
Yeah, I'm like, I
it's
don't give a
we
damn. We
have
can have
all the
whoever we want.
room in the world to pull people from other regions because there's a lot of players from North America that I still want to have on the spawn, right? Like you have like
But
I'd
we
love
still
to
gotta
have
get Tech. Tech wants to come on. I know
yeah,
Tech wants to come
yeah,
on.
I'd love to have Tech
Uh,
on. I'd love to have like Jesus Saves on. I'd love to have Emali on. I'd love to have, I'd love to have Jingo back on. I love Jingo. Jingo's awesome. But yeah, I mean,
he goes,
as
"Oh, man."
dull as North America has been lately, I'm all for reaching out to a lot of these other regions and getting some insight from them, especially because a lot of those events happen at times that a large majority of North America is not active for, right? It happens like if you looked at the Chinese games that happened today, like 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was where it started for Pacific. Maybe even earlier than that is not a time where a lot of the North American players can keep up on that level of competition. I know Bobby has been trying to get more watch parties in for some of those regions. So if you guys did miss those games this morning, definitely check it out because
Sure.
if you think North America is the big shark out there, the top of the food chain,
No.
there's you
No.
you are missing out on a lot. So
Yeah.
definitely be on the lookout for that. We'll try to get more exciting guests from around the world, even though this is the North American spawn. We'll still talk North America, on the spawn, but there really wasn't much to talk about today, right? Like we watched explicit like clean sweep back to back shred it. There's not a whole lot to talk about that matchup because it was even hard to justify how well explicit played because of how bad shred it played, right? Like there's just not a lot to go on off that sense. And then our other matchup was F4 versus Mafia, which is two teams that are like hardly fighting for that number 6 spot right now. So I I don't know. And actually, I did miss a big point when I was looking at the schedule for North America for Tuesday. I did actually miss a incredibly big matchup that we're going to have on Tuesday. You know, I mentioned we're going to have Explicit versus ARP and Shred It versus Mafia. I did miss because this is normally the slot that the buys are in. We are actually going to have Tribe versus Mayhem as well on Tuesday, so that is a giant
Yeah.
game, and that'll be our last open season day before we get into finals week. So we're only a couple weeks away, from stage 4 at this point. I mean, we're let's see, what's the date today? The 12th.
8th,
So
I think.
today's the 12th. So we're what, 3.5 weeks out from stage 4 for North America, and that's going to be really, really big. And the only footage we're really going to have between now and then for North America is make sure you're showing up to NA. You know, we're going to have, like I said, Tribe versus Mayhem is going to be a really big one. Explicit versus ARP is going to be a huge, huge matchup. Just to see how far ARP and Explicit have come, as well as Mayhem have been looking absolutely fantastic lately, and Tribe have been struggling quite a bit. Obviously, a big part of that is the loss of Bolu for them. Well, I guess not the loss of Bolu, but obviously his injury is preventing him from playing at his best, so they're playing with a sub who is still a very good sub, but you know there's a lot going on with Tribe where you know they got 2-0'd by Arsenal last week, and that is I don't think the outcome anybody expected leading into that matchup. So I'm pretty hyped for Explicit. They had a pretty big matchup against actually you guys on Mayhem last week on Thursday, I think. That was a really good best of 3 that I think was a really, really slept on match. So
Did they beat us, Matt? Oh, yeah, they won the S&D, right?
they won the S&D, which I was honestly
You know,
surprised
that's
at.
actually that I do think we're by far the best S&D team
I agree.
in
I
the
agree.
region. I think that we're one of the best in the world as well. But that Explicit team, now that's not to be confused. They don't always beat us in S&D. Like we have our way with them quite a bit, but they are the only team that occasionally can take an S&D off of us. Like the only team. We have not lost a single S&D to anybody else. Like those well, not Explicit, I lie. The Arsenal kids that were on the Explicit roster. Those Arsenal kids, the Molly, Jingo, and the other one, what's his name? Fucking
Well, Asta is no longer on the roster.
Asta retired,
Yeah,
but
Asta
he was one of them.
retired.
And then
Yeah,
they just picked up Saxy.
Yeah, the Explicit roster right now is Jingo, Molly, Saxy, Solo, and Snipes as the starting roster, and then they do have Wolver, who is formerly Automatic YT.
He also retired.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he retired.
Um,
That's what they told me. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Now, obviously, we're not going to hold you to it, but looking at, for example, Tuesday's matchups, we have the new Explicit versus the new XRK, now known as ARP. Obviously, with Parka having separated from the team. I feel like those are probably two really even matchup. I personally would give the edge
Explicit
probably
ARP,
to
you said?
Explicit. Yeah, Explicit versus ARP.
Okay, so I have strong opinions about this because, like, I don't think ARP is bad. I just don't think they're good as well. The thing about ARP, I really like Jesus. Like, I really like Jesus. He's a great guy. They just do too much, man. Like, I came on the show a while ago, and one of the things I said is like, this guy Jesus, he's like Awakened, for example, where he wants to play all the time, and his team ARP, they scrim and scrim and scrim and scrim and scrim. They'll play a big match right into scrim. They like scrimming. It's like, dude, you're overdoing it.
That's
do
a
it
real
way
easy
too
way
much.
to get your players burn out.
That's so easy for you to burn out. It's so easy for you to like. You know what I compare it to? I compare it to like when I'm playing Wild Rift and I'll go on like a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 win streak, whatever. I'm going in solo queue, and then I'll lose a game, and then I'll be like, I've won so many games, let me play again. And then I'll lose, I've won so many, let me play again. I'll lose, and then at that, it gets a point where I'm just fucking rage queuing, and I'm losing and losing and losing and losing and losing, and that's what happens to them. ARP's not bad when they have a little bit of rhythm. They've I'll put it out there. We sometimes a while ago, we were scrimming ARP, and they were waxing our shit in scrims. Bad. We were getting our shit waxed. Now, to be fair, we were just not on our rhythm at all. But they were, and they were beating our ass. And then in that same week, we play them, beat the shit out of them, and then I go and I watch their stream all the time. For whatever reason, they stream their shit, they leave their VODs up, and I'm watching their shit 6 hour, 7 hour streams where they're scrimming every single minute of it, and team after team after team, they lose, and it's like, come on, guys, like we just gotta keep scrimming. No, dude, get the fuck off.
Yeah, take
Get
a
off,
break.
dude. Stop playing. Like, go to bed, man. Wake up tomorrow, go back at it. So I think explicit right now, especially with the Arsenal kids, I think they're just better. Like right now, I think they're the third best team in the region that we've seen. I have no fucking clue what's up with Truly. Nobody knows what's up with Truly ever. They don't show anybody anything. They don't scrim anybody. They don't play
exist
any
until
tournaments.
Masters happens.
They don't exist until the tournament comes out. So right now, I'm gonna pretend like they don't exist. I think it goes us and Tribe on any given day, and then Explicit, and then Explicit should be the third best team in the region right now. And then I would
Over
say,
Truly?
well, I'm pretending Truly doesn't
Pretending they
exist.
don't. That's
Remember?
right. That's right.
And then I would say ARP is supposed to be number 4, but as well, when they're burning themselves out, I don't think they're better than fucking Shredded. Like I think they suck when they're burning themselves out. So I don't know. I just think it depends on how you catch them. If they wake up with enough sleep and have a good breakfast. That's what it comes down to for me. But yeah, I give the edge to Explicit too. That solo kid's pretty good, and Jingo's Jingo's been playing really well. Jingo for a while was like average, but now he's definitely solid. Saxy's playing really well for them. Molly's playing really good. Blur or whatever, that the Molly guy.
Yep.
Molly is Blur. He's playing really well. Like their entire team, like they're definitely solid. They should
sometimes
be a
that's
stage
just the case, right? Because obviously you look at the likes of Jesus Saves, you look at the likes of Molly, you look at the likes of Saxy, players that didn't really excel on your roster, and sometimes that's just the case, right? Sometimes, on paper something looks good and it just doesn't work out. I'm sure, MyDarling, you have players in the region as well where they just, they're a great player and they just don't work well on a team, and sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, plenty.
That happened with
It
us a
does,
lot.
it does, it does, it does.
It happened with us a lot this season with Jesus. Like again, great guy. We can't we won. We were the top North American team in the throwback throwdown with Jesus, and having issues the entire time with Jesus though. And then shortly after that, we were scrimming. We were doing well with Jesus, but we just didn't. It didn't mix. It wasn't good. And I get tweeted. It's fucking funny because we go and we're talking to our, I'll talk to the guys or whatever. We'll just sit and kick it before practice or whatever, and I'll open up my Twitter just so some of them can see just how much hate I get on Twitter randomly from random people. And I'm scrolling through like my notifications. I get tweeted at least like 20 times a week by like random people, like on their burners and like randoms, just straight up randoms on their main, talking about how like I shouldn't have dropped Jesus and how space is shit and how they can't fathom how Jesus got dropped and why is Awaken on the team, Molly and this and that, and it's like, dude, you have no fucking idea what it's like on our team. You have no idea the kind of people that we are. You have no idea who these guys need to be around. You have no idea the culture. You don't know what the attitude is. You don't know what's going on. And I'll put it out there. Jesus did literally nothing wrong. Jesus came in, did everything that was asked of him. He showed up on time every time. He vodded like a motherfucker. He played way more than everybody. Like, by all accounts, Jesus was one of the most, if not the most active person on the team. And we mutually walked away because it just did not fit. That's it. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, well, especially with him wanting to be a starting sniper, right? Like that is.
Well, no, he never came in and said that he wanted to snipe.
But that is
That's
what he
we
wants
knew.
to do.
I know that that's what he wants to do. Jesus would never tell Little B or Tech, he's like, sorry, bro, but like I'm doing it. Like Jesus would never say that. And at the same time, like if he said it to Little B or Brian at the time when we were having Brian snipe, they would have. Brian might have been like, all right, you can snipe, but Little B would have been like, nah, who the fuck? No, you know, he would have been like, hell no. But Jesus, no, Jesus is not the kind of guy that's gonna take you out of what you want to do. He's the kind of guy that he's gonna try to make himself fit as much as he possibly can, and that's something I preach to players all the time, to do the opposite. Like whatever it is that you're saying you are as a player, like the team should fit around you, quite honestly. I think that's how you find fits. That's how you find long-term teams where you get to a spot, you get yourself around people who kind of facilitate the things that you want to do. The more that you kind of try to conform, the more incomplete you become. And the less that you're able to worry about what it is that you're doing, you're always trying to do something else. And it's uncomfortable, and not a lot of people are training the right way. Not a lot of people are practicing the right way for you to make a position change and actually get to a good spot in a good time frame. Again, because of the fact that people are playing and they're practicing like ranking or rank Sing or whatever it is that they're doing, but their brain's on autopilot the whole time, which is like the worst thing you can do when you're practicing by yourself. Autopilot, just play the game just to play without thinking. Uh, so for a player like Jesus, who's always kind of conforming and stuff, it's tough. But he's in a good spot right now with the ARP guys. They don't give him any trouble with what he wants to do. He's vocal. He has a leadership position there, I think, from what I've heard, which was the other aspect of it, why it didn't work on our team. Because it's like, Jesus, he's never done anything, right, in the scene. And coming into our team, where we're champions and we've been there before, we've accomplished it. Sometimes it's really, really rough for you as a quote unquote rookie player to come in with strong opinions with people who have already a chip, or with people who already have veteran experience, especially if you haven't earned the respect of them, which was a little tough. His opinions never really got through, but he's in a good spot now, where I think a lot of them right now are right about the same level, experience-wise. They're in the same boat, and their opinions definitely resonate with each other. So I think he's in a great spot.
Yeah, bouncing back to OCE a little bit. Darling, you'll have probably the best answer. I know Zim, you know, this is again bouncing back to you're one of like the most important resources we have here on the spawn, just because you are a team coach, and you're looking forward to, what teams am I going to be playing against coming up into Worlds? What do I need to get my boys ready for? And that's one of the reasons you were able to pick up MyDarling here tonight. And that's huge. That's huge, right? But uh, boiling right down to it, Darling, you're the one with the experience. Do you have any like super breakout snipers in OCE that are
Uh,
missing out on a world spot because COD can't get their shit together?
Honestly, I'd say like the majority of talented snipers we have are underaged, like NA. We've
Mm-hmm.
got people from 15 to 17 years old, and I mean, they even can't participate in the regional playoffs, let alone anything related to Worlds. But I mean, we do have snipers like Supreme in our region, or Elevate, who is probably, I'd say, one of the best snipers in the world. I mean, he is on iPad, but to be honest,
Qualified,
with time, the
disqualified.
transition, I don't think that's like a huge deal, to be honest. But like, I think I'd say like, even if you have, I'd say like a breakthrough sniper. I mean, it is a sniper is a huge part of say like an S&D game, but I'd say like working together as a team and having that kind of like teamwork and communication, I think is actually a lot more underrated. Um, just because I see a lot of random shit happening, like a lot of the time, like even watching, even my region, NAEU, like sometimes you just see like random shit. You just like, what the fuck is going on? But then you look at more organized region like China, and you're just kind of like, they're actually working together really, really well, and understand each other. And how Zim talked about earlier about like players kind of like fitting in, not necessarily fitting in with the team, but kind of like having the team facilitate around their playstyle and everything like that. Yeah.
The other thing why I think China just naturally at a tournament will be really good internationally it's like what we talked about before, the culture. Like whenever you're doing something, I would imagine just from the stereotype. Now I'm speaking 100% from stereotype. I hope not to offend anybody, but with with the Asians, when they set themselves out to do something, they do that shit to the fucking max. They like live and die to beat the absolute brakes off of whoever the fuck they're doing it against. Like they are training hard. They probably have staff wazoos and wazoos and wazoos and coaches and positional coaches and all these motherfucking things. Shit that's only being touched on in North America, uh, and other regions. Where it's like over here,
Yeah,
you got fucking kids that are coming. They're coming from their middle school. They're like going to McDonald's, fucking running around doing hoodlum things, coming home playing like rank S, probably fucking toxic out the wazoo and shit. They're just playing. They don't give a fuck about anybody else. They're doing whatever the fuck they
the
want to do.
VC is fucking hilarious. I'm not gonna
BC is
lie.
just hilarious. It's toxic as fuck. There's no ideas getting communicated. Nobody's really listening to each other. You're playing for kills, and I'm spawning in against a fucking 5-star Asian team that's beating my ass 150-0 every single game with consistency. I have no idea how North America is gonna beat China. But
I'm gonna agree with you on the stereotype. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think anyone should be offended on that one. Like I'm Asian myself. I can confirm that a lot of people, I mean Asian people, they do
and like
put their heart and soul
we
into
have all the
everything.
ass and we have all the ass Asians over here. Like Little B, he's one of the worst.
Uh,
He's like what? He is one of the like laziest Asians ever. Lazy, just fucking
Yeah, you
horrible.
don't gotta go at him like that, man.
No, I gotta go on. I'm like, Little B, come on, man. You're supposed to be precise. You're supposed to be a hard worker. You're supposed to be a fucking machine. And he's over here
Why? He's
fucking
got
trolling.
content to work on too, as well. You know.
Content. Fuck your content. You're a pro player. Trolling. I'll tell you a funny story real quick before we head out.
Yeah.
I do VOD. We VOD. Me and Brian
Mhm.
Tech, we used to VOD disgustingly last year. We since dropped off, but we still
Okay.
VOD. But we would do team VODs, and I would do one-on-ones with all of our players. And Little B is the one person I could not drag to save my fucking life. If my life depended on it, I would die because I could not get Little B in a VOD. I just could not.
I can relate
And
to
then I
this so much.
finally managed to get him in a VOD because I forced him, just absolutely forced him, and he did it out of pity. And he came in. I set the VOD. I turn it up. I'm like, Little B, these are the ideas we're gonna communicate. This is what we're gonna talk about. We start the VOD. Pause, talk a little bit. 5 minutes into it, he goes in. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. When's this shit over? I need to take a nap. And I was like, we're done. Go take your nap.
Holy
Where it's
shit.
like if you sit on a VOD with me and Brian, I can go 2 maps and talk over them relevantly for an hour and a half. Relevantly to the game without wasting time. And we can sit there and talk, have good ideas,
Wait,
communicate it
who's
all.
Brian?
Tectonic.
Oh, Tech,
We
yeah.
can sit and
Tech,
talk
yeah.
intellectually about the game for time,
Yeah.
lost in the time because we're working on it. And this
Yeah.
guy literally just cannot, for the fucking sake of it.
I love bloody Tech, man. Like, even
Yeah.
watching his stream, I can tell like he's so bloody devoted to like whatever he's doing.
Yeah, man, people think that Brian just woke up one day and was really fucking good. Like, no. Brian was definitely really good on Tribe, like, and before Tribe as well. But Brian, he worked hard, and
For sure.
Narrow too. Narrow spent a lot of time with me, up to a point where Narrow struggled, and we thought, don't repeat yourself. Let's do something different. Let's up the work, and he worked really hard, became what he is now, and is obviously still working, and that's what it's about. When you feel like you hit a wall or you stagnate or whatever, do something else, do something different, do something more. Because when your career's done, when you're unpicked, nobody will pick you up, and when you move on because you're too old to play games and stuff, you don't want to look back on it and be like, I could have sat on those VODs. I could have done more.
Yeah,
So it'll be too late, you know.
for sure.
But yeah, I had a great conversation. I loved it. I'm
Yeah, me too, for
hopefully
sure.
we'll keep you on the server. Hopefully we can bring you on again sometime. Probably after the stage, maybe we can talk and see how you guys thought just from watching the games. We'll see if maybe you guys have another APAC tournament, and we'll talk about your performances over there. But besides that, I don't have anything else today. Do you have anything on the closing end?
Uh, Not really much other than Darling messaged me on Twitter, and we'll start that riot to get you guys into Worlds.
I've already
Oh
been fucking
yeah, for sure.
spamming, tweeting and shit. And then I don't know any Garena. I know actually I know a couple. I know a couple Garena people. We'll see if we do Garena
Yeah.
next week. You know who I really want to get? I want to get Mustachio. What's his name? Mustachio, the caster.
Mustachio, the caster
I
though.
want to get
Oh my
that
god.
guy here, man.
He seems like the lad, man. He seems like
I want to have a drink with that guy. That guy's a fucking beast, man.
Worlds, man. Worlds.
Yeah, no, for real at Worlds, yeah. They do all their stuff on Facebook, right?
yeah,
I think
because
so,
like
yeah.
all Southeast Asians use Facebook. I mean,
Facebook. I really wanna have a conversation with that guy.
Yeah,
He seems
well,
Yeah.
hilarious.
we'll get you guys some more guests in. I know we have a couple NA players that are actually hoping to be able to jump on the spawn. I know Tech
Yeah.
wants to get on. Molly has reached out to me. He wants to get on. We have a bunch of people lined up for EU as well, so make sure you guys are checking out the spawn on EU on Tuesdays. That'll follow up Mobile Mayhem NA, or Mobile Mayhem EU, sorry. We've got Miney coming up. And then the week after that, I think we have Yaya from Nova, so that should be a really good one because as far as any Yaya stream I have ever watched, the dude loves to talk shit, and he's good enough to do so, right? Like he's not one of those people that talk shit and isn't able to back it up because he will
Oh, he shuts
absolutely
the
back
fuck
it up.
up when they get their shit waxed though. He
Yeah,
shuts up
yeah.
real quick. Which I respect. I respect the ability to talk all that shit. For me, if you're gonna talk shit, do that shit before you start playing. That's when it's really
I think so.
fucking.
Too.
It's easy to beat somebody's ass and then kick them. Like, nah, don't do
I
that shit.
think he's actually a really
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
guy because like
No,
you know
he's
like
a super nice guy. Like,
Yeah,
he is.
he's super chill,
He's
but
a
he
nice
definitely
guy, yeah.
gets in that shit talking mood when they're
He
playing
loves
for sure.
to do that. I remember like a month or two ago, he tweeted he retweeted this like Japanese tourney video where like this guy got like a 5K on like B Dom Summit, and he was like, "Oh, Asian regions aren't scary anymore." And then like all the Japanese players got mad.
Yeah.
They retweeted his shit, and like I was like, lol, that's funny. And then I was like, yo, you want to 1v1 him, bro? He'll probably like smoke you on your ping. And he's like, yeah, sure, bro. And then he streamed it, and he got absolutely like butt fucked. Like he got fucked so hard. And he was like, oh, bro, SS your ping, bro. Like, but he came to me. He was super nice, super chill about it. Like he wasn't really like, he wasn't super salty about it or anything. And we were able to like kind of like become friends after that. That was so fucking hilarious. But yeah, like I see so much like trash talk, but beneath it, it's so love and fucking, it's awesome. Yeah.
That's the thing, is like making sure it doesn't get personal. You don't ever want it to get personal. You want it to stay game related. That's like the secret to being a great trash talker. But also the consistency, and when you do it as well. Like again, don't do it. Graceful, or what is it they say? Humble in victory, graceful in defeat, shit like that. Where it's like, don't beat whoever the fuck it is you're gonna beat down. When they lose. Shake hands over, walk away. But if you're gonna run your mouth, do it 0-0 or when you're losing. That's I respect the most people who talk shit when they're down maps, when they're losing, and I think Narrow is like the golden standard of that. When I came onto Tribe and we created this like, fuck you guys culture, we're playing and you're gonna have to beat us type culture. Go watch some of the Exec games, and Moralto's in the chat right now. He can probably tell you. Moralto, how did it feel going up 2-0 against us on Saturday, and every single game that we came back, Narrow was shooting bodies. Every game that we were losing, Narrow was telling you guys you were shit, and then losing on Saturday to play you guys in the finals on Sunday from game one, talking shit. Fuck you guys. That's just fucking hilarious. I loved it.
Yeah, I found that to be so fucking funny.
Yeah, so many clips. There's just like clips randomly of like gameplay or whatever. Gameplay, and then Maven or whomever the observer, they'll switch to narrow, and then they'll switch really fast off of them because it's just narrow like teabagging a body randomly in the middle of the map shooting it. It's like in a situation where like you have no business doing that. We're on a really important transition. Every kill matters. You gotta haul your ass across the map, and Narrow's just in a corner, just like bagging somebody. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. But
It
yeah,
is, yeah.
I love it. But anyway, man, thank you
Yeah.
for coming on today. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it was a pleasure having you,
No, I
darling.
appreciate it
We'll
as
we'll
well.
get you back as well another time down the road. We've got a lot of guests coming on, but this was actually
Yeah.
really fun. It was nice getting to get a voice to the OCE region, which I feel like has been largely shut out by COD-M. Um,
Yeah.
I'm down
I
to
mean,
Riot. If you want an extra body for the Riot, I'm down. Zim, as always, it's a
for
pleasure
sure, man.
to work with you.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
man.
much. I appreciate your time and having me on here. Well, thank you guys both so much. It was
No problem.
honor to be on.
All right, well, that's going to close it out.
Yeah,
Thanks
right.
for joining us, guys. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter for more announcements on the spawn. Make sure you guys follow Zim as well at Durian Zim. My darling, do you stream or do you have a Twitter or anything you want to shout out real quick before we go?
Yeah, so my Twitter is just at MyDarling with double G, COD Mobile. My YouTube is just MyDarling. That's it.
All right, fantastic. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next week for EU on Tuesday, NA on Thursday. Oh, real quick, Zim, any update on LATAM by any chance?
They're right now in the process of working through their stage 4 stuff, so I don't know
Oh, that's a
if
good point.
they're
That's a good
actually
point.
going to, if they're
All right,
actually going to dedicate
so
time
not
to this.
next week, guys, but maybe the week after that, or even the one after that. We'll see how that goes. But thanks for coming, guys, and that's it for us on the spawn.
All right.